Faced with severe drought for over 12 years and the fearful prospects of the river Saraswati itself getting dried up, the inhabitants on its fertile banks started looking for alternative places for a living. The fertile Gangetic banks was their first choice. Thus, the migration out of upstream areas of river Saraswati started well before it was completely dried up or become Guptakamini, continued for many years from Kashmirapura to the Gangetic belt starting from UP, Bihar, Bengal and also Odisha. The migrant included the Saraswata Brahmins, the GSBs and other sections of the organic community. They continued to be known by their earlier name of Saraswat, with the addition of the new place of stay also getting added to their caste name, like Maithili Saraswat for those who migrated to places in Bihar, especially to the three Hotrapura, the modern Tirhut division in Bihar, comprising of 6 districts of Muzaffarpur, East and West Champaran, Vaishali, Sitamarhi and Shivahar. The Kanyakubja Saraswat for those who migrated to Central India and East India, like the modern state of Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, Bihar, Nepal and Orissa. Those who stayed back in Kashmir were continued to be called as Kashmiri Saraswats. By 2000 BCE, Saraswati river had completely dried up from the topsoil, turning huge tracts of fertile lands in the downstreams from Jaisalmer, Barmed, etc. in Rajasthan to Rann of Kutch in Gujarat into barren but a beautiful desert rich in minerals. During the Krita Yuga, 13,000 to 12,240 BCE, sage Parashurama, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, ventures on annihilating the wicked kings of the earth for 21 rounds. But later, to atone for those acts, he performs a yajna and on his completion donates the entire earth of deceased kings to the Brahmins who perform the ritual before taking a ritual bath in Saraswati river. This event was believed to have taken place during the period 13,000 to 12,240 BCE, and the Bhagavat has a reference to this in the 9th canto, 16th chapter, 23rd sloka. After completion of the yajna, Parashuram wanted to retire to a place for intensive tapasya, but he felt that it was not appropriate to perform it in places that were already donated to the Brahmins. His search for a new place took him across the southwest of Vindhyas on the coast of Arabian Sea, and he makes a representation to Varuna, the god of the sea. Highly pleased, Varuna instantly agrees to withdraw from the area where Parshuram's axe fall. They are using his physical powers. Sage Parashurama flings his massive axe and retrieves a massive chunk of land. It was the first recorded history of land reclamation out of the sea. Finding a very suitable place there, Parashurama names it as Gomantaka Desha. To perform the Vedic rituals, sage Parashurama searched for the best skilled Brahmins, fell on the Saraswata Brahmins of Trihotripura in Bihar, who gladly accepted the invitation. Trihotripura is the ancient name for the present Tirhut division, comprising of 6 districts of Muzaffarpur, East and West Champaran, Vaishali, Sitamarhi and Shivahar. Incidentally, Parashurama himself was a Saraswat Brahmin, being the son of Jamanagni, who also belonged to the clan of Rishi Bhrigu, whose son Chavana was the grandfather of Rishi Saraswat. The 66 families belonging to 10 Gotras of Saraswata Brahmins soon migrated to Gomantaka Desha from Trihotripura. They were allotted 66 villages to settle down there, which is now known as Salset. 66 is Sashashti, and from it comes the word Sashti or Salset. Once the main program for which they were brought to Gomantaka Desha was over, the GSBs got settled down to placid ways of life pursuit, of learning, teaching of Vedas, performing Vedic ritual, etc. for generation. The picturesque land on the west coast of India, having the Arabian Sea on its west and Sahyadri mountain ranges on its east, is the land that gave birth to a unique culture of Konkan. It has got Damanaganga river at the northern end and Gangavali river at the southern end of its territory, acting as natural boundaries. With many other beautiful rivers that originate from the mountains and join the Arabian Sea, only enrich the life of the people by its immense natural beauty, making the area now known as Konkan. All-round bountiful nature enriched the socio-cultural life of its inhabitants as well, bringing the best out of them in creative writing, in arts and culture, in their mother tongue Konkani, which has its roots in Sanskrit but has assimilated the words from the local languages where they lived, like Kashmirapura, Trihotripura, Gomantaka Desha, and later Kerala and Karnataka also. The mother tongue of the famous rulers of Konkan, Shilaharas, Rashtrakutas, Kadambas and Vijayanagara etc. was Konkani, though they used Kannada for official purposes. Konkan people reached the zenith of their glory under the patronage of Vijayanagara kingdom 1336 to 1469. The Kadambas, who had their capital at Chandrapura, present Chandur, are also responsible for the rise and glory of Konkani. But the world around them was changing faster than they could have imagined. India was no longer outward looking like it used to be till the Mahabharata times. Though arrival of Buddha in 400 BC, India again became outward-looking nation when people crossed the ocean to preach the message of non-violence and renunciation of the world as the only way for inner peace, taking the world by storm, bringing large number of people from all the 7 continents to India. Those who came not only learned more about the new message, but a large number of them preferred to stay back, being attracted by the peace and prosperity in the country and the socio-cultural life of the people, changing the demography of the country for good. The vast diversity one sees now in Indian population that has people belonging to all 4 major races of the world, right from Caucoid, Astroid, Mangaloid to Negroid, was basically because of the influx from outside attracted by the message of the Buddha. This has been the real story of Aryan invasion of the world right from the time of Rig Vedas, that is 19,000 years BCE. It has been for preaching of India's message of peace and harmony, and the people from all over the world coming to India to learn more about it. The famous verse in the Rig Veda, Krinvanto Vishwamaryam, points to that reality, and not what has been fabricated by the vested interest historians of the world and the left-oriented historians of India, of Aryan people coming to throw out the natives of the country. The world moved further, bringing to India Emperor Alexander from Greece by 326 BC, whose intention was to colonize the country. But seeing the fierce resistance put up by the border kings, he had to beat a hasty retreat. By the turn of the first millennium, The Middle East of the world saw the birth of aggressive faiths that talked of love and brotherhood in words but practiced violence in deeds against humanity to achieve its goal. When its religious books promise lavish rewards in the life after death, it only acted as great tonic to indulge in violence to get converts to their faith. By 1030 AD, Muhammad Ghazni from Middle East invaded and plundered the famous Jyotirlinga temple in Somnath, Gujarat. His success in looting and plunder set the tone for the other ambitious rulers of the Middle East to come in regular intervals that finally resulted in establishment of some of their kingdoms in India. Even as the world around them was changing fast, the GSBs, with so much focus on life pursuit, missed most of the important socio-cultural changes taking place around them. Sparsely populated areas were slowly showing signs of population explosion. By the turn of the 13th century, the new generation of the GSBs woke up to the stark reality that sticking to the vocations as per birth was neither possible nor sustainable. That made them to look for new areas for livelihood. Farming, trading, government jobs, etc. came to them naturally as those vocations were sanctioned by the Smritis as Apadharma. But with the progress of time, the vocation they took up as Apadharma became a lifetime vocation for the most, with a minuscule number only sticking to learning and propagation of the Vedas, performing rituals, etc. The rest of the GSBs, for all intent and purposes, except for the physical signs like wearing of Janevu, body marks, etc., were no longer qualified to be called as Brahmins as defined by the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, sloka 41-42, where the benchmarks were inner nature, that is Swabhava, prompted outer physical actions limited to learning, teaching of the spiritual, secular knowledge and leading a simple life. No wonder that set in wholesome changes in their food and lifestyles, with good number of them even resorting to unacceptable things so far for a Brahmin. But the community took it in their stride, that also as a part of the degradation brought in by the Kali Yuga.